Welcome to the Early Edge. Good morning to everyone except for the Trevor Lawrence truthers out there. You know who you are. This is the Early Edge. We are brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. We got some legendary things going on in the chat. Who was it? Lucas Papalizio. He says, make it a great day. Great day or not, the choice is yours. I absolutely love that perspective. Before we bring in the stars of the show, and we got a great different, interesting cast today. Let's see how we did last week, particularly on Friday. We've got a few of these bets that carried over from before Friday. 13-9-1. It's a winning record. Brasco goes 4 out of 6. The two he misses were both pretty big plus money plays. SportsLine picks was a mixed bag. I go 1-0-1. Mikey B goes 2-0. Really good stuff. We'll take 13-9-1. But ladies and gentlemen, we're always wanting to do better. So let's bring in the stars of the show because we got Monday Night Football to talk about. We got NBA. We've got a college basketball sports line pick, an NHL pick. And what a cast! Mikey B on a Monday. PropStarz Larry Hartstein and Will Brinson is here. He's going to join us on the network show as well. Will, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, could have been I got knocked out of Survivor yesterday. Shout out to the Panthers and the Bills for being terrible football teams on that glorious Sunday. But no, I mean, otherwise a fun Sunday of football, a lot of upsets, and I thought it was pretty thrilling Sunday.
Larry, if you were still in Circa Survivor, and I know you got knocked out, I guess it was you and PropStarz got knocked out a week or two ago, would you have been on? You think you would have been on the Bills or the Panthers this week?
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, and you know what? It's so bitter and the nerve is so raw that I don't even do Survivor analysis anymore because I'm so upset about what happened. But I was happy to see a lot of people go out on those big favorites. But I think Will should be in a good mood because his Rams look like legit Super Bowl contenders. And they're playing the Seahawks this week, who also look like legit Super Bowl contenders. Seattle reminds me of Oklahoma in the old Big 8, where the game is over after, about 10 minutes, and then the rest of the game is backups and handing the ball off. I mean, it is incredible what they're doing. I cannot wait for that game next week.
PropStarz, it's really interesting because there are some teams in the NFC that aren't huge surprises, but I think are surprising people even more. Like, we all thought the Rams were going to be pretty formidable. There were some that thought the Seahawks were going to be formidable. These teams are kind of going above expectations here. And it's interesting because we got this Monday Night Football game tonight, and the Eagles are one of the NFC teams that we know are good, but haven't really put their stamp on the season quite yet. You think tonight might be the night for that?
I do. I think there's a lot of signs pointing in that direction coming off of the bye week. I love what the Eagles did, acquiring Jalen Phillips at the trade deadline, getting Nolan Smith back as well. Michael Carter, the highest paid nickel corner as well. They acquired him from the Jets, allowing Cooper DeJean to move to a more natural position outside. I really think Big Fangio defense is going to start really get things going, ramping things up here. They're getting healthy at the right time. So I think the Eagles are set up. They have a lot of momentum right now, in my opinion. All things considering the way how the season's gone thus far, how they performed offensively, I think they're happy to be where they're at. So I'm still very bullish on their outlook, and I think the best is yet to come for them.
Yeah, shockingly that the Philadelphia Eagles feel very under the radar right now, which is a weird thing to say considering their record and their pedigree and what they did last year, winning it all. VJ in Windsor says, go Lions. That was a good beating. Okay, VJ, I'm a Commanders fan. We really didn't need that. So let's just move on. We'll turn the page. That game didn't happen. Mikey B, what happened on Friday is you going 2-0 with the smoke machine, the fog machine. You didn't bring it back today. I'm a little disappointed. How's everything going?
I'm doing good, thanks. Yeah, the fog machine is only for special appearances. That's going to be reserved for special Fridays. The smoke detector is back down here. So we're back up here. No code violations at my house.
All right, let's get into some picks because we got a lot to cover. Will, I'm going to start off with you. You've got a couple of props on the Green Bay side. One, on Christian Watson. I almost had a Christian Watson pick for this particular show. Talk to me about Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave.
Yeah, and just real quickly, I want to point out, too, that one of the storylines that's massive for this game, and we start looking at anytime touchdown scores and various picks like that, the Packers are the team that made the pun intended push to have the tush push ban this past offseason. The Eagles know that. This is like a sort of a revenge game in that spot, but I'm going to go with the Packers props anyway. I've got Christian Watson over longest reception, 21.5. This is a guy who, now that he's back and in the fold, fully healthy, 2 games, he is the deep threat for the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, one of the best, or at least most aggressive deep ball throwers in the NFL. And I think in this particular game, with Watson out there, Matthew Golden trending towards maybe not playing. It'll probably be a game time decision. What we're going to see is the Packers come out and take some deep shots to Watson early to try and get a lead, because whoever gets the lead early in this game can really lean into their, dominant ground game, whether it's Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley. And I think attacking down the field early makes a ton of sense. If the Eagles get a big lead too, we have a game script to bail us out on the Watson thing. And he's covered this number, by 20 yards. I think he has a 33-yard reception in one game and a 53-yard reception in the other game. This is his specialty, the deep ball. Love Christian Watson over longest reception.
All right. We got Christian Watson over longest reception. Before we get to Luke Musgrave, I was really considering taking Christian Watson's yards. It has creeped up as the weekend has gone, and that's a lot because of the expected injury news. But I guess some of those receivers like Dontavian Wicks, they might play. I don't think it affects this longest reception prop at all, but I will say, depending on that news, I may put into SportsLine an over on Christian Watson. Let's say some of those guys are healthy, and that 40.5 that pretty much exists at all books right now ticks down to like 38, 37.5 because of the health of some other receivers. That's when I might jump on Christian Watson, because I missed the boat on the low 30s number. But talk to me about an under with Luke Musgrave, Will.
Yeah, so the presumptive logic here is that with Tucker Kraft injured and out for the season, Luke Musgrave was actually taken 2 rounds ahead of Tucker Kraft in the draft when they were taken together. And everyone's like, well, Tucker Kraft's out. Let's plug in Luke Musgrave. I don't necessarily think that's what the Packers are going to do. I think we could see John Fitzpatrick or Josh Weil out there, primarily because Green Bay, again, loves to run the football. Tucker Kraft is one of those rare breeds of tight ends in the George Kittle mode who can be an elite blocker and an elite receiver at the same time. I don't think Luke Musgrave is that guy. And when you talk about, probably mentioned Jalen Phillips, they add all these pieces on defense. Vic Fangio is going to be bringing the thunder against him. And Jalen Phillips was incredible. I think in the 6 games he played under Vic Fangio back in Miami when Fangio was there. The Packers are going to have to be wary of keeping Jordan Love protected. And I don't think if they're trying to protect Jordan Love and trying to run the football, that Luke Musgrave is the guy who's going to see all those snaps that Tucker Kraft was seeing. I think we're going to see more blocking tight ends out there for Green Bay. And so Luke Musgrave's number is probably a bit inflated by the idea that he's simply just going to replace Tucker Kraft.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good call. Go ahead, PropStarz.
I love this look from Brinson. First and foremost, Luke Musgrave is not Tucker Kraft, as Brinson mentioned. Tucker Kraft is a very rare breed of tight end who's also been uber efficient on limited volume, which is why he was a regression candidate. I talked about this at length, why I faded him the last time he did suit up. But yeah, Tucker Kraft is in a whole category by himself that Luke Musgrave is far from. Furthermore, the Eagles' pass defense, specifically against tight ends, they've given up the second fewest yardage to the position over the last 5 weeks. They've been the best pass defense against specifically the tight end position. So it's also a very difficult matchup for Luke Musgrave. I love this look as well. I think taking the under 3.5 receptions is a super sharp look. Much prefer this to his yardage too. I
also think when it comes to Luke Musgrave, just like most players, post-injury, Luke Musgrave wasn't the guy he was pre-injury. That injury he had a couple of years ago. I mean, it's just one of those things where you slow down a little bit. Larry, go ahead.
Well, he hasn't had a lot of snaps because of how great Tucker Kraft is, but he is healthy now. He had a lacerated kidney. He had a torn ligament in his ankle, but he's totally healthy. He's a guy who can get down the field. He's a great athlete. He's not going to have the yards after the catch. He's not as good a blocker as Tucker Kraft is. You're right. I agree with this play, but I do think he can get loose down the middle of the field for a big play or two.
Yeah. Also, the Eagles really good at covering the tight end. Well, I don't even know. I can't remember if you brought that up, but we're going to have – it's probably going to be Zach Bond. Typically I'm avoiding tight ends against the Eagles because of the coverage matchup.
Yeah, they've given up the fewest yardage to the position on a per game basis over the last 5 weeks. Number 1 defense in the NFL versus tight ends.
Look at him with all the Eagles stats. You got to love it. All right, Larry, real quick. Will Brinson brought up the tush push thing. You like a potential, this is not an official pick, but you like a potential anytime touchdown for Mr. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, plus money. He hasn't scored in the last 2 games, which is very unusual for him. But I mean, everyone knows the controversy, and Micah Parsons tweeting it out during that game when the Eagles ran the play 4 straight times against the Giants. It looked ridiculous. And he said, this is not football. Well, they're going to see it tonight. I think any chance they get. I mean, don't you think that, Sirianni is the kind of guy that wants that is exactly the kind of guy that he is.
He's the frattiest coach of all time. So yeah, he's definitely going to do that. That leads to my pick. Let me get my pick out of the way because it is a pro Eagles pick. I'm going to take the points. It's not many points. I'm going to take the +1.5. You can take the Eagles on the money line if you want. I just don't think this Eagles team is getting respected at all. Now, a lot of money is coming in on I should say some money's coming in on the Eagles because this opened at 2.5. Why would that open at 2.5 the way the Packers have been playing? I understand the Packers record is very good, but they haven't been that good since week 3. I mean, we still remember them as the team that demolished the Washington Commanders, who we know now is not a very good team at all. And since that time, they've just been very up and down. The Eagles, on the other hand, we're seeing a slow progression, a slow, this looks like the Eagles team of old. And then you bring in reinforcements, and then you bring the Eagles off a bye week. I just don't see it here for the Packers. I think the Packers have been kind of knocked down a level against the run. They've been pretty good, but last week, not very good at all. And I think the Eagles are going to pick them apart there slowly but surely. And I think the passing game is going to click as well. You take the Packers and you take Tucker Kraft out of it. You've got some inconsistency at the receiver position, regardless of who plays. Who's been practicing this last week with Matthew Golden banged up, Christian Watson, yes, reintegrated, but you still don't have a lot of Dontavian Wicks. You still don't have a lot of guys in that receiver room, including Jaden Reed. So I just think there's way too many things going for the Philadelphia Eagles and way too much inconsistency with the Green Bay Packers. So give me the +1.5, and I'm taking the points because I do think this could be a tight game that could potentially come down to, somebody going for a 2-point conversion for a win or a couple of field goals and in a low scoring affair. I'm always going to just want to take the +1.5 instead of the money line, but I am totally okay with the money line in that -105 range. All right, that's some NFL. Will, did you have some follow-up?
Yeah. I was just gonna say I like the Eagles a lot here too, and the number moved full point this morning, and wants to go even further and might very well close as a pick 'em. I think that with the Eagles, we've seen, by the way, good teams this year coming off a bye have played very well the following week, and so I think that's something to watch. Also, if the Eagles are who they were in week 7 and 8. Like the rest of the year, then they're a top 5 team in football, like easily. If they are vertical with their passing attack, it's a whole different ballgame than what we saw from them the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season.
Proppy, this is your team. We see BetMGM has this number at +1. A couple of major books have it at +1.5. Either way, what are your thoughts on this game in general?
I would offer, as far as Green Bay is concerned, I agree they don't look like the team that did the first 3 weeks of the season. They do tend to play down to their level of competition. I think they'll be up for this game. I have a slight lean towards the Eagles here. I just think they're pointed in the right direction for them. Momentum, the defense getting healthy. I think we'll see a more inspired effort defensively. I think the personnel that Vic Fangio has will be utilized in this game. But I do think this is the appropriate portion of this stream to mention that Larry and I have a showdown on Matthew Golden's season-long yardage here. 725, I believe, Larry. So just want to update the chat. That's going very well for my
What's he at right now?
I believe around 250.
Yeah, it's not looking great. It's interesting. To your point, Proppy, he didn't get phased into the offense. He sort of got phased out of the offense after week 3, week 4, which is really, really interesting. And then Christian Watson kind of assumed the Matthew Golden role. And in Larry's defense, maybe he didn't think Christian Watson was going to be healthy. Either way, I don't know that Golden was going to get there. All right, we got so many more picks. By the way, if you have questions about the NBA or the NFL, put them in the chat. That's part of what this Monday and these Thursday shows are for. So make sure you put your prop questions or your game questions or your first half questions, whatever it is, put it in the chat. Mikey B, let's change the pace a little bit. You went 2-0 on Friday. You got 2 props again today. Tell us what you have.
Well, we have to have props from the Bulls game. It might be contractually obligated at this point that I have to give a prop for the Bulls game. But I'm not going to take one on the Bulls side. We're going to do De'Aaron Fox over 19.5 points. He missed the first 8 games of the season with a hamstring injury. He played Saturday against the Pelicans. He did not look rusty. He had 24 points. He shot 9 of 14 from the field. But the big stat I like the most, he played 31 minutes. So I don't think he's on a minutes restriction moving forward. It looks like Stephen Castle is going to be more of the facilitator on this team. He's had at least 13 assists in back-to-back games. So I think Fox's role here is going to be a scorer. The Bulls play at the 6th fastest pace in the league. So we're going to take him to go over 19.5 points. And then we're going to go to a thriller. Everyone's got this circled. Suns, Pelicans. We're going to do Mark Williams over 24.5 points and rebounds. The Suns are shorthanded again. Jalen Green out, hamstring injury. He left Saturday's game early. In that game, Williams had 19 points, 6 rebounds. Now, Williams was limited to start the season, but he's averaged 28 minutes over the last 7 games. During that span, he averaged 15.6 points, 9.9 rebounds. Sia, here's a smorgasbord of Pelican stats for you, okay? They have the 3rd worst defensive rating in the league. They've allowed the 5th most points in the paint per game, and they've given up the 6th most rebounds per game in the league. We add all that together, cook it up. Mark Williams over 24.5 points and rebounds.
That is a smorgasbord indeed. Check that off your bingo card. Ladies and gentlemen, we have first touchdown bets that we're going to get to later on in the show. But BetMGM has that really good second chance promotion. Get your stake back in cash. If your first touchdown scores second instead. Bet on any pro football player to score the first touchdown of the game. If you're right, you win. If your player scores second, you get your stake back in cash. Also, with BetMGM's hat trick jackpot, you have the chance to win your share of $10,000 in bonus bets. Just place an anytime goal scorer wager, and if your guy scores 3+ goals during the game, you will win a share of $10,000 in bonus bets. Speaking of the NHL, we've got a SportsLine pick covering the NHL and college basketball. We're going Santa Clara Xavier under 157.5 at -110. That one courtesy of Bruce Marshall. And then the model pick, a grade A model pick, is Predators Rangers under 5.5 at -105. We've got so many more picks to get to, including your questions in the chat. We're going to cover it all right after this message from our partners.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
We're back on the early edge, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary. PropStarz, Larry, you still have your picks to go, and I'm not sure. I love both of these. You know, Proppy, I love a completions prop. And then, Larry, you've got a Devontae Smith play, which I like. So, Larry, I'm going to let you start. I'm going to let PropStarz close us out.
All right. Well, this should be another Devontae Smith game as opposed to A.J. Brown, just based on the way the Packers play defense, which is a ton of zone coverage. We know that A.J. Brown is the man beater. Devontae Smith has been the #1 guy lately, 35 targets in his last 4 games with 27 catches. The Packers do not give up the long ball. #1 in terms of allowing explosive passes. They force you to work the ball down the field. That's more of Devontae Smith's game, especially because he will line up in the slot a lot and get to face the slot corner, Javon Bullard, who I think is one of the weaker links on that Packers defense. So I just love Devontae Smith tonight. Yards, catches, however you want to play it. I thought this -110 was a great find because I'm seeing it juiced, and I would play this up to 125, but I'm seeing it juiced higher on several books already. And then defensively, I have to get back on track. I missed both of my defensive props yesterday, and one of them in sick fashion, but I'm going to Zach Bond over 7.5 tackles, -145. Bet this at Hard Rock last night. Gave it out in the SportsLine Discord. I would still play it smaller for plus money over 8.5, which is what you're going to find at a lot of books. The Green Bay stat crew is very generous when giving assists on tackles, 4th most in the league. So if he's in the area, if it looks like he's in the tackle, I'm hoping they give him credit for that. They also run the ball at a top 10 rate at home. They run at the 7th highest time, which should be good for Zach Bond. He's only missed 2 tackles in his last 4 games. Give me Zach Bond to get to 8 stops.
All right, we got Zach Bond. We've got Devontae Smith. Proppy, well, first of all, Will, I saw you vigorously kind of nodding your head on the Devontae Smith one. Are you in on that? Because I didn't look at the catches as much as the yards. I think they're both good, but I'm in on the yards for Devontae Smith, which is in that low 50s.
Yeah, I mean, I think Larry nailed it with the man versus zone stuff. Like Devontae Smith is, A.J. Brown is the guy that overpowers you with just his pure grown-ass man abilities. And Devontae Smith is that crafty kind of surgical guy that's going to carve up those zones. And if they are passing and they're doing that play action stuff, I think they will look underneath to try and dink and dunk. By the way, one thing on the defensive props too, I know Micah Parsons' revenge game was against the Dallas Cowboys earlier in the year, but this dude hates the Philadelphia Eagles for passing on him. He grew up an Eagles fan, and his splits against the Eagles are pretty ridiculous. 7 games, 5 sacks, 29 total tackles, 6 tackle for loss, and 8 quarterbacks hit. So if you see some Micah Parsons props out there too, I'm interested. I just didn't see a lot when I was looking around this morning.
All right. I love that insight. PropStarz, talk to me about Jordan Love. You know, one thing we know about the Packers and the Eagles is this game is going to be pretty slow from a pace standpoint, probably a few less possessions than you'd see in a normal game. With that said, you also have the upgrade on the Eagles defense. Does that lead to maybe some Jordan Love unders?
It does indeed, yeah. Taking a good look at the landscape here, I really thought fading Jordan Love in this spot, volume-based approach a little bit, but also from an efficiency standpoint, going under 20.5 completions for Jordan Love. These two offenses, as you mentioned, Sia, are both fairly conservative. They also play very slow and methodical in neutral game environments. I think both teams are going to run the football. And if we look at this Green Bay matchup specifically against the Eagles, Green Bay 5th in success rate rushing the football. Meanwhile, the Eagles defense, if I were to tell you where they're the most vulnerable, it's been on the ground, where they rank 28th in success rate, defensive success rate versus the run. So I think it's an invitation really for Green Bay to do what they like to do, which is run the football. I think we're going to see a lot of Josh Jacobs and what projects to be a competitive game environment. I don't think there's going to be necessarily the sort of volume there for Jordan Love. And this is a fairly big number for him. Typically, this number for him fluctuates in between 18.5, 19.5, 20.5 is just a byproduct of a couple of his recent performances where there's been negative game script and he's been forced to air the ball out, I think, more than Matt LaFleur and company has wanted. Really, since Aaron Rodgers has departed from this offense, Matt LaFleur has had an incredibly conservative offense where they run the football. And again, both of these offenses burn a ton of clock here. So I just think this is not the sort of game environment for Jordan Love really to have a high completion total. It would really require the Eagles pushing the Packers into a game script where they're not balanced, and that's not what Green Bay wants to do. So I think this is a good spot to fade Jordan Love, specifically in this category, under 20.5 completions.
Yeah, and I know Dave Richard from our NFL Prop Show liked the under in his passing yards as well, which I still like. It's probably moved down a few yards, but I still like that as well. Let me kick one right back to you, PropStarz. Hurts rushing attempts, anyone, says Cleveland fan. I think that's at 7.5. Any thoughts there? Obviously, the tush push would be involved in that analysis.
Yeah, again, I think this number is efficient. This is typically where we see Hurts. So if we're looking at volume-based props on either side of the football, again, this is not a sort of game environment, in my opinion, that lends itself to taking volume-based approach, which you would rushing attempts line. So personally, I would stay away from it. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me whatsoever if the Eagles opt to give him a few extra carries. Obviously, kneel downs are included here as well. But again, I just don't think we're going to see the amount of plays really necessary to take a volume-based approach if we're looking to play overs.
Let's go to a basketball question, an NBA question. Jeff Stenberg, Mikey B, how much do you like Sam Merrill over 2.5 threes at plus 115? Sam is a guy that doesn't care about Darius Garland's return. He's launching triples.
Jeff is sharp, but I don't know. I'm not playing Sam Merrill three-pointers. I don't like playing some of these fringe guys like that. There's other options out there, Jeff. Let's avoid the Sam Merrill props tonight.
You know what's going to happen. He's going to hit like 4 or 5 threes. Yeah. Jeff will have laddered it. And then
I hope he does. Listen, I'm not saying to play the under. I hope Jeff hits it. For my comfortability, I can't do it, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just wait for the tweet later because Jeff always seems to hit these. Thomas Mickles says, Mikey B, do I need to start riding Jalen Duran over PRA over 36.5 minus 115 at the Wizards?
Okay, so Thomas, here's the deal tonight. This is the second game of a back-to-back set for the Pistons. It's also their third game in the last 4 nights. The Wizards have the worst point differential in the NBA. This could be a blowout. If it is, we might not see Duran in the fourth quarter. I am not playing the over. I'm not saying to play the under. I'm avoiding that.
Talk to me about go ahead, PropStarz.
Credit to the Detroit Pistons. Somehow I continue to overlook them. First place in the Eastern Conference. I believe they've won 6 straight games, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, the Pistons playing fantastic basketball, despite, in my opinion, not having top-end talent really outside of Cade Cunningham. They continue just to win and keep winning. So kudos to Detroit Pistons.
Brent Ritchie says, Mikey B, would you still take Castle over 6.5 assists tonight?
Yes, he had 13 assists and 14 assists the last 2 games. He's a very good passer. I mean, those lobs to Wembanyama are like child's play. And who's going to stop the Wembanyama lobs? Nikola Vucevic can get maybe 3 inches on his vertical, maybe, if he really jumps off the right way. So I don't think there's anybody on the Bulls that can stop that. So, yeah, I like that over for Castle.
By the way, just quickly, I was at the Mavs season opener in Dallas when they played the Spurs. I've seen a lot of like athletes in my life, like in person, that like superstar athletes. I mean, I've never seen anything in person like Wembanyama. Like that guy is if you get a chance, go see him in person, because it just doesn't make any sense when you watch it. It's amazing.
Speaking of, Jodel Ashihi says, Mike, do we see the Spurs beating down the Bulls -3?
Jodel, come on. We're not picking against the Bulls on this podcast. It's not allowed. It's banned, forbidden. Yes, I would lean that. Specifically because Josh Giddey is also dealing with an ankle injury. He's questionable, so we don't know about his status. But yeah, if I had to pick, Jodel, if you're making me pick, yes, I would lean towards the Bulls cover. Or the
Did
Spurs
the ankle injury occur on the DeAndre Hunter crossover?
Listen, that had nothing to do with the crossover. It seemed like some faulty stitching on the shoes, the court. You know, I saw someone with a spray bottle putting water on the court. There was a lot of, circumstances that were beyond Giddey's control. But yes, technically it occurred on that play. Correct.
I will say this. I don't think it was the DeAndre Hunter crossover. I think he stepped wrong. I think his step came like 3 inches shorter than he expected, and he just fell over. So really bad timing to have that type of fall, though. Jordan Love over 10 rush yards. Larry, anything on a quarterback rushing on the Green Bay side?
You know, I do think the Eagles' pass rush is going to be a lot better tonight than it's been all season. I believe they're bottom 5 in sack rate, and that's almost been the biggest difference between their team this year and last year. I mean, you lose Josh Sweat, you lose Bryce Huff, and Nolan Smith gets hurt. And now you get Jalen Phillips. Nolan Smith is coming back. So that could present some scramble opportunities for Love. So, yeah, I would lean over.
So this one's interesting. Ramo, who's in this chat a ton and always asking great questions. Proppy and Will, I'm going to go to you on this one. Thoughts on Josh Jacobs under 18.5 rush attempts? Now, what's really interesting about this is the volume for Josh Jacobs outside of last week has kind of dwindled here and there. We've seen a little bit more Emmanuel Wilson. We see game script. Well, we don't see game scripts. We could see a game script where maybe there's a little less for Josh Jacobs. But here's the really interesting part. BetMGM has his rush attempts total. Yeah, there you go, Will. At 16.5. FanDuel has it at 18.5, granted at plus money. And then other places have it at 17.5. DK has it at 16.5 as well. So Proppy, I'll go to you first. I find that very interesting. And it's probably BetMGM and maybe DraftKings that are on the right number here, right? I would take the under of 18.5, wouldn't you?
I'd lean towards it, but this is really the sort of matchup where Josh Jacobs, in my opinion, is going to be heavily featured. He's also played well recently after a really slow start. Starting to look a lot better. So again, against this Eagles defense, they've been vulnerable specifically to opposing running backs and ground games. I think we're going to see Green Bay lean into a high volume rushing attack. So I'd personally stay away from this, but I also don't mind if you're trying to catch a middle if you do have access to the 16.5 and 18.5.
Yeah, I mean, that middle is so in play with rushing attempts. It's not like yards, right? Like that's a big, huge gap there. Will Brinson, go ahead.
Yeah, I had over 16.5 in my column on CBSSports.com today for best bets on Monday Night Football. And the logic was this. 3 weeks ago, Josh Jacobs was dealing with that ankle injury. I think it was even like maybe questionable to play against the Steelers, or maybe it was the week before. Regardless, the thing that stood out to me when you sort of look at Jacobs is not counting the Steelers game, and that was a weird, wonky one where Pittsburgh's defense kind of stepped up. The other 2 primetime games they played are the only 2 games that he went over 20 carries in, against Washington on that Thursday night and then in Dallas on that Sunday night. And I think the Packers definitely take an analytical approach in terms of capping the number of carries they want their running backs to have. That's why they work Emmanuel Wilson in when they do. And that magic number for Jacobs is right there around 17 or 18. But I think in this kind of game where not only is like the Packers' division hopes on the line because they need to keep stacking those wins to keep up with Detroit. But I mean, this is a game that's going to massively impact the number 1 overall seed in the NFC when we come down to it. This is a tiebreaker game, and I think that they will probably give Josh Jacobs all he can handle. But I don't hate the idea of that. If you can access both under 18.5, over 16.5, we could easily land at 17 or 18, depending on how the game script. And if the Eagles are up, I mean, yeah, you could throw the Jacobs rushes out the window.
Larry, one guy we haven't talked about at all, and we've mentioned A.J. Brown. Of course, we've talked about Devontae Smith. We literally haven't even brought up Saquon Barkley. And his rushing total, just so everybody knows, is between 75 and basically 78. His rush attempts are in that 17.5 range. How are you feeling about Saquon Barkley tonight?
I mean, he got back on track last time we saw him. He's healthy, but they won't have his center, Cam Jurgens, tonight. It's a tough defense. I would lean under, but I'm definitely not playing it.
Proppy, are we going to see the Green Bay rush defense from last week, or was that just an aberration? Because they were terrible last week.
It's a big number. Saquon's only eclipsed this, I believe, in 2 games this season. So the odds makers are definitely aware that Saquon starting to look better, looks healthier in the offense. But again, the Green Bay run defense is good. I think they play down to their level of competition. I think they'll be up for this game. So if anything, I would think it's a pretty high, not something I'm comfortable playing.
Before we get to first touchdown scores, Mikey B, I know you cover football, and it's rude of me to not ask your opinion on this game. You do have a first touchdown score, but any opinion on this game or any of the props that you've heard?
Yeah, I don't feel bad excluding me. It's fine. I'm okay to be the NBA specialist with this esteemed panel here talking about their football bets. Yeah, I think it's like what Proppy said. Both of these teams tend to play up or down to their competition. I would probably lean the Eagles to win this game, but I'm not betting it.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to some first touchdown scores. Me and you, Mikey, are on the same player. I like Dallas Goedert. Listen, he doesn't get a ton of targets, but when he's in the red zone, he gets the targets. And so I just think it's a comfortable person to take at 13-1, finding a soft spot in a zone with a lot of attention on A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. It's your classic tight end first touchdown score play. I don't think I need to go too much deeper into it outside of the fact that Goedert is a massive red zone target for Jalen Hurts. In terms of between the 20s, not so much. Let's go to the other tight end, Luke Musgrave, Larry.
Yeah, well, the Eagles have given up 5 receiving touchdowns to opposing tight ends. So even though they've been good against the position, that's a healthy amount. And I just think with all the wide receiver injuries for the Packers, there aren't a lot of weapons. And you got to be expecting Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs to be getting a lot of attention. I just think there's good value on a guy who obviously has something to prove. He's been the forgotten man, and now this is his shot.
Will, if anybody can just go up and box somebody out and muscle somebody off the ball, it's A.J. Brown.
Yeah, and we've seen the last couple of weeks or the last 2 games for the Eagles when they started to throw the ball downfield a lot more. And I realize, the zone man matchups are a problem. They like to get A.J. Brown involved early in those games, because when you do, not only does it free up Devontae Smith a little bit, free up Dallas Goedert, it frees up Saquon Barkley. And if you can get A.J. Brown going early in that first quarter and get the ball down to him, throw it, you get down to the goal line, maybe you're not by the goal, at the goal line, A.J. Brown can just go one-on-one against anybody. So I like that look. And I think with Josh Jacobs, with Saquon Barkley, with Jalen Hurts in this game, we actually have some legit superstars in that 10+ range. I would just throw out two quick things. Dallas Goedert, 5 targets inside the 5-yard line, excuse me. All 5 turned into touchdowns so far this season. So a great look there. And then one bet I don't hate, and this is too convoluted to try to email in before the show. Jalen Hurts' first touchdown scorer parlayed with Jalen Hurts 2 touchdowns. Get you 15-1. Hurts is if the Eagles get down there, they're going to tush push against this Packers team that tried to ban the play. And so I think we could see multiple tush pushes, multiple Jalen Hurts touchdowns. I don't hate that parlay.
So without even realizing it, PropStarz, and I know you had some reaction to what Will just said, and you've got your first touchdown. I noticed that we have a poll put up by Ben, and it said, what's your favorite first touchdown score bet? And I clicked on my submission. I feel like I kind of cheated the system a little bit, but go ahead and vote in the poll. PropStarz, you might have had some reaction, but also you like Christian Watson to catch one.
Dallas Goedert, one of only 3 tight ends in NFL history, along with Bubba Franks and Julius Thomas, to have us a plus 20% market share in the touchdown category. So he is scoring touchdowns at an unbelievably high clip this season. Huge regression candidate, in my opinion, as far as touchdowns are concerned. But Christian Watson, the strength of this Packers offense was their depth at the wide receiver or pass catcher position. Tucker Kraft, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, Larry's guy Matthew Golden, all banged up. They're really missing from this game. Really, Christian Watson, one of the only healthy bodies out there. He's looked good, and they like to test the deep shot with him. So I'll take some Christian Watson here.
That reminds me, when we get a little bit more injury news, particularly with that Packers receiver group, I will tweet out an SGP, and I will definitely put it in the SportsLine Discord as well. Gipper's Picks has got to sprinkle John Fitzpatrick, backup tight end, at plus 3,500. Brad McDonald says, Sia, will there be an early wedge this week? Yeah, tomorrow night there'll be an early wedge on the Butterfield Bermuda. I had a great week last week. Not only was I 4-0 with my props, but I didn't lose a golf bet either. I tied a couple. I won a couple that I admittedly put out on Twitter, not this show. But then my tournament matchup won. We hit the first round leader on Sammy Valimaki. It was 90-1, chopped down to 45-1. I don't know that I'm going to be able to replicate that one for the Butterfield Bermuda, because that's a weird tournament. I think a lot of different things are in play there, including weather and wind and things of that nature. But I'm very much looking forward to breaking that one down. So, Brad, tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Today at 12 o'clock, we're going to be doing an extended version of this show, kind of focusing on Monday Night Football. And, Will, you're joining us for that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here to talk Monday Night Football as much as possible.
Yeah, we got a lot more. Danny Brasco, who was in the chat, he says, I know he's going to be there as well. We got a lot of the SportsLine crew in there. Jordan Atienza says, tonight feels like an instant classic. It absolutely does. Hand up. Does anybody have any questions they need to answer before we get to the recap screen? Larry, anything?
Well, I saw somebody talking about Aaron Rodgers, and I did want to comment on just how bad he looked, and not just the body language, the frustration with the offense and his teammates. You know, definitely there was a ball right in somebody's hands that turned into an INT, but just the decisions. I mean, 4th and 6, you just throw it into double coverage in the corner of the end zone, such a low percentage throw when you have a tight end over the middle right at the first down marker. But it looks like he's, you know, when you get older and you're worried about the rush, you're like speeding up your process and you're not letting you kind of decide it in advance. That's where I'm going with the ball. So, I mean, they look like they're cratering. The Ravens are I think, going to win the division by 2 games minimum and maybe 3 games. They're minus 275 already to win the division.
You know, I didn't think the Ravens looked that good against Minnesota, though.
No,
I mean, I know they won and they covered
right.
and all that stuff, but I wonder if we're overrating both of these teams. Go ahead, Proppy.
I was just going to say, I agree, but Pittsburgh looked that bad.
Yeah, no, that's true. 100%. They play Cincinnati next week. Maybe they can get back on track there. But real quick, Philip Terraza says, Devontae Smith, first quarter receiving yards, 8.5, minus 115. It's tough, right? Because we might have 2 possessions in the first quarter. Anybody want to respond to that one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think 8. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. He can get there. And that's like 1 catch, 2 catches, easy. He gets there. I do think, though, that you could see like a 7 or 8 minute field goal drive by one of these teams to start this game, or maybe the second drive in this game. And if that happens and it's just a bunch of running and like quick hitters underneath to Dallas Goedert, or one big play to AJ Brown and then a bunch of Saquon runs, all of a sudden it becomes a little thin, I think, for a game like this.
Proppy, before you go, speaking of thin, Mark Buckhold says wide receivers weren't really getting much separation either, to be fair. Is Pittsburgh the worst wide receiver group in the league? I mean, we would have said that going into the season. I know, in fact, we did say that going into the season. So, I mean, is there a receiver group that's worse than the Pittsburgh receiver? DK Metcalf isn't even that good of a receiver, if we're being honest, from a route running standpoint. Mikey B, go ahead.
The Giants without Malik Neighbors.
That's fair.
No, it's better, though. Wandale's actually, I think, a decent receiver. Same with Darius Slayton. It's better.
The Panthers are probably worse than the Steelers, too, but not by much.
Yeah, Ted McMillan, though. I mean,
Ted loves to drop a bread basketball, though. Like, I mean, he's really good. He's going to be really good, but he loves to drop a bread basketball. I think Giants Sans Neighbors are a good one. I mean, you could talk me into the Jaguars being worse than the way Brian Thomas is playing this year, him being hurt.
No, that's a Trevor Lawrence thing. Everybody knows it at this point. I understand they dropped some balls. Trevor Lawrence is a bad quarterback, period. We've had this discussion. We're not going to put that on Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington, who actually is kind of
He's actually pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty good. He's a rich man's DK Metcalf. This is Parker Washington.
Fair enough. All right, let's get out of here. Let's get to the recap screen. Sorry if we missed some of your questions. Eagles plus 1.5, minus 118. That's my pick. Devontae Smith over 4.5 catches, minus 110, and Zach Bond over 7.5 tackles and assists at minus 145. That one those two courtesy of Larry Hartstein. Will Brinson joins the show. Christian Watson over longest reception, 21.5, minus 110, and Luke Musgrave under 3.5 receptions at minus 130. PropStarz Jordan Love under 20.5 completions, minus 114. Mikey B, De'Aaron Fox over 19.5 points, minus 115, and Mark Williams over 24.5 points plus rebounds, minus 108. We've got a couple of SportsLine picks. Santa Clara Xavier under 157.5 at minus 110, courtesy of Bruce Marshall. Predators Rangers under 5.5, minus 105. That's a model pick, grade A model pick at that. If you have questions about any of these picks, by the way, get in that SportsLine Discord and ask away. First touchdown scores. I'm so rude. Mikey B, I didn't give you a chance to explain Dallas Goedert, but it was because I was on it too. Mikey B, do you have anything to add to Dallas Goedert? We talked so much about it.
Since we're teaming up on this, we should come up with like a tag team for like Legion of Doom, the mega powers. Maybe because you've got the big muscles, this could be the Hans and Franz first touchdown score team. Because look at the biceps and triceps on these guys. They're huge. He's huge. Dallas got it plus 1,300. Yeah.
You guys can be the bushwhackers too.
That's more my thing.
Mikey B, you're the absolute best. Luke Musgrave, first touchdown from Larry Hartstein. Of course, me and Mikey B on Dallas Goedert. And then we got Christian Watson at plus 1,500 for PropStarz, and Will Brinson, AJ Brown plus 1,100. Philip Terrazas says pump you up. Some get the reference. Hopefully a lot of you get the reference, but very understandable if you don't, as we all age ourselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was an incredible show. Thanks for joining us. 12 o'clock on CBS Sports Network as we dive even deeper into Monday Night Football and cover some college football with Tom Casale and Emery Hunt. Don't forget about that. A lot more content coming on this SportsLine YouTube channel, so make sure you are subscribed to this channel. If you're watching right now, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Big thanks to Ben, Larry, Proppy, Mikey B, and Will Brinson. Ladies and gentlemen, just one thing left to do. We rest our case.